Hi, my name is Sandy. I am a yoga and Pilates instructor, and I also teach somatics movement. I'm a certified instructor for that. And in today's class, I'm going to focus on all three of those things combined. So we're going to mostly do everything's going to be on our back, laying down. The idea here is just to kind of open up any tension in the hips or into the lower back. So if you've been struggling with some tension there or maybe have some back pain, hopefully this will resolve it. It'll be about a 20-minute class, and the only thing you will need for props would be a blanket or a pillow, and you can have a yoga block as well. But you can also use the blanket or pillow because we're going to do one portion. We're going to have that underneath of the sacrum. So let's go ahead and get started. And you're just going to lay down on your back. And the first thing we're going to do is just lie down and you're going to have your knees bent. What I would do is separate your feet and bring the knees together. So you could also place a prop in between your knees if that feels better. So once you lie down and get comfortable, just get a sense of what your pelvis feels like. If you feel like there's a big arch in your lower back, you could certainly place something in between your inner thighs, which will help to kind of alleviate that. So feet bent, legs bent, feet flat on the floor. And we're going to start with our hands on the belly today, just because we're going to begin with the breathing. So the most important thing in all three of those modalities is that we're going to be tuned into the breath. So just being really slow and mindful of doing in the movements and staying really present with the breath, because when we hold this tension in the body, it's usually related to stress, right? So we want to kind of bring that stress down through the breath. So by placing your hands here, we'll go right where the belly button is, and you'll place your hands there. And we're going to start with the eyes closed. And just as you begin, just get a sense of where your breath is. A lot of times we're anxious, we'll feel the breath more up into the chest. So we really want to work to bring the breath deeper. So maybe you might want to move your hands up to the ribs if you're not feeling it down to the belly. So hands on the ribs or the belly. We're going to take an inhale through the nose, and then you're going to exhale through the nose. So you should feel the ribs moving, perhaps the belly moving. But if you're feeling it into the chest, just try to relax and bring the breath in deeper by taking your hands, placing them on the ribs. We're going to count the breath. So the inhale is going to be about 4 counts, and the exhale will be longer, going about 5 to 6 counts on that out breath. So the breath and the movements are going to be slower and very intentional. So there's no rushing through it. And we're just signaling here to the nervous system that we're ready to relax and calm ourselves down. So we're moving out of sympathetic into parasympathetic state. So this is telling your nervous system that you are relaxed and safe. And let's stay here for about 3 more nice, relaxing breaths. So hopefully by now you're feeling that breath a little deeper. If you're still feeling the breath up high, you can also just pause the video and stay for a little bit longer until you get the breath deeper down into the rib cage, into the belly. So you should feel that expansion of the ribs, the little bit of rising of the belly. And if you're not there yet, just take a moment to stay a little bit longer with the breathing. All right, so we're going to get started with the movements. So if you have a block, you're going to take that out and just set it aside. And we're going to do windshield wipers, right? So your arms are going to be resting on the floor. We're going to move very slowly with this one. So if you've done windshield wipers before, you might have done them quicker, but I want you to really focus on using your in-breath to allow the legs to move in one direction. And you're going to use your exhale to bring them back to center. And then you'll inhale to go the other direction. So let's just start out with just moving the legs. We will incorporate the head and neck next, but I don't want to rush too fast, too quickly. So just go slow. Remember that 4 count inhalation, 5 or 6 count exhalation. So you're using the exhale to pull your heavy legs back to the middle because you're going to be using your core. The inhale is going to allow the knees to simply drop. So a couple things you're checking in with. Well, number one is, where do you feel tightness, tension, or even like maybe you feel a little bit of discomfort or pain. That pain could just show up as just like restriction of movement. It can also be a little bit of nerve pain. All right, we'll do one more and then we'll meet in the middle. And now as you drop your legs, we're going to take the head in the opposite direction. So we're going to get the knees go to the left. Your head will turn to the right. And as you exhale, you're going to bring the knees and the head back to center. And then we'll go knees to the right, head to the left. And then you'll exhale, bring both back to the center. Let's do this a few more rounds, nice and slow. Stay present with the breath. So try not to move ahead of your inhales or your exhales. And it's nice if you can just keep those eyes closed, staying really present with sensation. And also letting go of stories. A lot of times we have stories about where our pain started or why it started, and it honestly doesn't matter. And when we can let go of those stories, we can just really dig into what's there and try to let it go. So let's come back to center. And then let's just bring the knees into your chest here for a second. Just pull your knees in, rock a little bit. So as you move, you're going to be massaging your low back there. And then we're just going to release the knees and shins and just let your feet drop to the floor. So if you can reach down. Maybe you'll touch your heels, but I want to get them kind of close to the glutes. And we're going to start out with just doing a pelvic tucks and tilts. We're going to go really slow, and then we'll add on a little bit of bridging to this. So let's start with the hands on the belly again, just to remember the breath. So let's inhale and exhale. So on your inhale, I want you to push down into your feet, and you're going to think about creating a little arch in your spine. So just a tiny arch. And on your exhale, just relax and come back to neutral. And we'll do it again. We're just going to do anterior tilt to start. So we're going to inhale, you're going to roll forward. Exhale, roll back to neutral. We're not doing pelvic tucks yet. We'll do one more, anterior pelvic tilt. And back to center as you exhale. So let's inhale here. Now we're just going to do posterior pelvic tilt. So we're going to exhale, and you're going to push down into your feet, and you want to feel your lower back pressing into the floor. And then you're going to inhale to release it. So if you feel tension, just go slow, do less. Exhale to create that tension here, just pulling the abdominals in, feel the low back touching the floor. Inhale to release. And let's do one more like that, just exhaling, close to your pelvic tilt, and then inhale and come back to neutral. Now we're going to put those two moves together. So as we inhale, we're going to go into that anterior tilt, create that little arch in the spine. And then as you exhale, we're going to come through neutral right into the posterior pelvic tilt. So feel the low back on the floor. So let's go here. We're inhaling, rocking forward, feeling that arch. Exhaling all the way back into that posterior tilt. Let's do two more like that. Nice, slow, and controlled. So when we're moving, we want to think also that we're trying to release tension. Let's do one more. And finish up that exhalation. And then you'll inhale, come back to neutral. Now our arms are going to come down to the floor. We're going to get ready to do a little bridging. So when we're doing this bridge work, I want you to really focus on the feet pressing down into the ground, the four corners of your feet. So don't let those toes lift up. You're going to have your arms and the back of the shoulders pressing down into the mat, and you're looking straight up into the ceiling. Don't let your head so you want to make sure you have no props under it, right? So you want to make sure that your head is grounded. And then we're going to go ahead and exhale and just lift up nice and slow. Come up as low or as high as you want. This first one, you're just feeling and noticing. And then slowly release. Just taking your time. Let's do three more. Use your exhale as you press up and the inhale as you come down. Good, last one. And this come all the way down. So this next one, I want you to come up to just a hover. So you're just barely hovering the back of your low back and pelvis off the floor. So let's exhale and lift up about 2 inches. And then you're just hovering right above. So you should feel it. You take your hand, you probably can even get your hand underneath. Once you relax the glutes, so give a little tap, make sure they're relaxed. And now we're just going to take a little sway, almost like a little hammock. Just allow your lower back to just shift right to left and not very far, just this tiny, tiny little movement. Keep those glutes relaxed. Let your lower back release to the floor the whole time as we're just doing this little side to side sway. And now very gently, as you're swaying, lower your lower back. Completely let go of any tension. Let's go ahead and straighten out the legs. And once you straighten out your legs, let's find the front of the hips. So you should find those little bones there. All right, so just give them a little massage. And sometimes we feel tension in the front of the hips. Sometimes we could feel like our pelvis doesn't feel equal on the floor, right? So that could be sort of just tension on one side. It just kind of pulls our pelvis out of alignment. So we're just going to do this next little exercise to kind of work on some of those muscles of the inner thighs, the outer thighs, and the front of the hips. So arms are going to be down by your side. Let's take them out a little further away from the body. We're going to start with the right leg, and then all you're going to do is you're going to turn your foot out to the side, and I want you to just drag your heel all the way up. So you'll notice that your knee is going to be kind of moving to the side, and your heel's moving towards the midline. And then you're going to bring the knee up so it's looking to the ceiling, and then you're going to release it. So by taking the knee to the side, and then you're going to straighten out the leg. We're going to stay on this right leg and do about 3 more repetitions of this one. So if it's hard for you to let your foot slide, sometimes it gets stuck on your mat, you could also use a sock on your foot if it's not slippery enough. So you're going to knee drift off to the side, and we're going to inhale, straighten out the leg. And then we'll exhale, drag it up, pull the knee up so it faces to the ceiling, and then release it to the side and all the way back out. Let's do one more. I just heard my ankle crack. So we're going to let the foot drop to the side, drag it in. This is pulling up the midline. Knee goes up to face the ceiling, and then out and all the way back out. All right, let's take a moment before we switch sides. Just take a moment, feel the front of the hips, feel the back of the pelvis. You're welcome to rock a little bit. So sometimes this leg could feel a little bit more grounded. So just notice that. And then we'll switch to the other side. So we're going to do the left leg now, turn the foot out to the side, and then you're going to drag the heel in, pull the knee up so it's facing to the ceiling, and then we're going to release it. Knee goes to the side, foot travels back, leg goes straight. 3 more. Exhale, drag it in. Inhale, release it, stretch it back out. And go slow, so no rushing through it. Keeping with that 4 counts. Inhale, 6 counts, exhale. 1 more. And then once your leg is fully extended, just take a moment to notice. Rock a little bit, so maybe shift your weight. And then we're going to bend the knees and we're going to hug the knees back into the chest again. So just getting that stretch on your back. And you can also move here. Gentle rocking is nice. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to do a supported bridge. So that means you're going to use either your yoga block or blanket or a pillow, which you're going to place underneath of your lower back sacrum. So I'm going to use a yoga block. I'm going to push into my feet. As I lift up, I'm going to slide the block. It should be above the tailbone. So I'm just resting on the sacrum and probably the lower part of your low back there. So mostly on the sacrum. And then once you're there, just let's stay here and just take a few breaths to really allow that low back to sink in. Feel that support. We're going to be doing a series of stretches here. So if anything like doesn't feel good, if it triggers any sort of like nerve pain or anything, I just want you to stop and just come back to this position where both feet are on the floor and your knees are bent. Because sometimes we straighten out the legs, it kind of pulls, especially if tight muscles, it could really create some tension. So just be slow, be mindful, and stay with your breath. Okay, so another breath here, just being present and noticing. All right, we're going to start with the left leg. So you're going to pick your left foot off the floor and we're going to pull that knee in. So you can just gently hold on either on the shin or you can grab onto the back of your thigh just to kind of help it be there in place. And then very slowly, you're going to start to stretch this right leg out. So I mean go slow because you're all of a sudden you're going to find tension, but I don't want you to be like startled by it. So just take your time with it. You might only get halfway out. You might get three-quarters or you might get all the way out. So just when you start to feel a lot of tugging and pulling, just go ahead and stop because we might take a few breaths here to just let your body know that it's safe. And then it might release enough so you get that leg fully straight. So I'm just going to take a few more breaths here and then we're going to add on. If your knee's still bent and you want to just try to see if you can get the leg to straighten out, just go a little slow with it. And again, if it still says nope, then just stay where you are. It's perfectly fine. So you might feel a lot of sensation in the front of the hip, possibly into this inner thigh. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to add this right arm, which you're going to stretch up over your head. Same thing with the arm. If the arm doesn't go fully overhead, you might want to use a prop. So I have a blanket, which I could rest my hand on here. You could use a pillow. Okay, so if that's a problem, just let your hand rest somewhere on support, then let it just dangle in space. Now we're going to breathe up and down this whole right side. So you're going to feel a little bit more opening from the top of your hip to the bottom of your rib cage, which can get really stuck in tight. Maybe you feel sensation on that inner thigh. And then if you want to, you could also add in a little bit of circles of your ankle. So if you have your heel on the floor, just using that as a pivot point to circle. And if you're doing circles, please do both ways. Just take one more breath here with that arm overhead. Okay, and then slowly release the arm down by your side. And we're just going to drag that right heel in, and we're just going to bring that knee right into the chest. And then just stay here for a breath, holding on to the right thigh or knee. Let your left leg release, foot to the floor. And then same thing, we're just going to gradually, slowly slide this leg out. Remember, we're checking in all around the hip. Anything that feels tight, just go slow with it. If you get halfway or three-quarters of the way, you just feel a lot of tension, just stop there. Be present with the breath. And then if it allows you to move further out, go ahead and try. Try to make sure both sides of the pelvis stay even on the block. The tendency would be to somewhat rock off to the right side. So try to stay heavy in this left pelvis. And then we're going to add the arm. So left arm is going to reach overhead. And again, if you need that prop, just place it there so you can rest your hand on it if it doesn't touch the floor. And now we're going to breathe up and down the side of the body. So a lot of times we could be tight on one side, so you might have a little bit more sensation. Again, focusing on the ribs. You might feel all the way up into the armpit, could be tight here as well. And then if you want to add some circles with those ankles, you could just keep the heel on the floor and just go about 4 or 5 times in each direction, clockwise and counterclockwise. Again, checking with that breathing, making sure we're staying with that 4 count inhale, 5 or 6 count exhale. All right, last breath. Let your arm release down first, and then you're going to slowly drag that heel in, pull knee into chest. Now we're going to take our legs straight up to the ceiling. So let's bring our arms to the floor for support, and then extend your legs up. So if you're tight in your hamstrings, you might have the knees bent, right? So any amount that you can get your legs up. So we're just getting some flow happening from the foot ankle all the way down into the pelvis. When your legs are up here, you can also add some movement with the ankles, also wiggling the toes, whatever feels good. Or you can just be still and just let your pelvis feel heavy on the block. And then slowly start to bend your knees and then placing your feet one at a time on the floor. Once both feet are on the floor, go ahead and lift up and slide your block out. And then let's go back to those windshield wipers again. And you can have your feet closer together this time if you like. And let the knees track over to the left. Exhale back to center. Inhale to the right. So just take a moment to notice if anything feels different. And then we're going to bring our legs back to center. And now we're going to bring our soles of our feet together. We're going to work a little bit more on those inner thighs. So we're going to let the knees slowly move apart as you inhale. And then using those full 6 count exhale to bring the knees together. Try not to do it too quickly. Inhale apart. Exhale together. Let them touch and go apart. Do that one more time. And now we're going to do our butterfly bridge. So we're going to start with the knees apart. And then as you exhale and you bring your knees together, we're also going to be floating the hips off the floor. Knees will come together, and then as your knees move apart, you're going to land your hips. So you're that full butterfly. And then as you exhale, you're coming up and squeezing those knees towards each other. Inhale to lower back down. So now we're getting inner thighs and pelvic floor. And your glutes you should feel at the top. Okay, let's do one more of those. Inhale apart. Exhale together, floating those hips up. And this time as you lower, just separate your feet. Hug your knees in. We're going to do one more round of those anterior posterior pelvic tilts before we finish. And you're just going to be noticing if anything feels different. Okay, arms could be either on the floor, you can rest them onto your belly. And we're going to inhale, we're going to go into that anterior tilt first. So you're going to make that little arch of the low back. And then as you exhale, posterior tilt, so you can feel your lower back on the floor. Inhaling. And exhaling, posterior pelvic tilt. And just take a moment to notice if your range of motion has changed, if it feels better or the same, hopefully not worse. Do one more each way. And let's find a neutral. And we're going to go back to our constructed rest. So you're going to walk your feet out, knees together. And again, you can use the prop between your knees if you want to, or just let the knees be touching. And your arms, let's have them resting on the floor, palms turned up to the sky. And I just want you to feel your pelvis, feel your belly, your low back, feel your whole spine all the way up to the back of your head. And if you're always welcome to place a prop underneath your head, if that feels like it would feel better on your neck, you can grab that and place it underneath the head. And let's come back to the breath. And let your breath be natural. So don't worry about the counting anymore. Let's just breathe normally. Hopefully your breath is definitely slowed down. Probably feel a little bit more relaxed and grounded. So just checking in with the body. Okay, one more breath here. And then go ahead and walk your feet in so they're closer together. We're going to roll to the side. And then you're just going to take your time to come up to sitting. And then once you find your sitting position, just take a moment to see how your hips feel. Sitting up nice and tall, just close your eyes. And hopefully they feel a little bit better. And if you still want to do a little bit more, you can repeat this practice. I would do it morning and nighttime, especially if you're feeling a lot of tension. So starting there, it was very gentle. So you could start with that and then add it on to another class, working with the hips and the abdominals, that anything like that would work, but it'd be a good class to for Pilates or yoga. And I thank you for joining me today, and I hope you enjoyed this little practice. Namaste.